I went to this like Christian school that was really liberal, and so like most of our chapel sermons were like just sort of like devolved into being like new agey. And there was one time our like computer like director, like the guy who managed all our computers, actually gave this talk about how like in chapel with the priest next to him about how like laughter was like the ultimate connection to God. So I was thinking about that for a while while you were doing that, and I was like, am I being connected to God right now? But anyway, I can't see it, and this is a little weird. I don't like that. I've been looking at this chart for a while, and I've been thinking that like 4 of my best friends, Crispin, Olivia, Nick, and Becca, are on this, and I'm wondering, like, do I intentionally make friends with people who have no shame? And you know, I think that's true, and I think that speaks to the truth about me, because like I want to tell you about how I ended up like sitting here right now, because actually I have terrible stage fright. I acted once, and like I sweat so profusely before I went on stage that like I actually like slipped a little on the floor once I got there. Even though I'm an extreme extrovert, as anyone who's interacted with me can tell you, I get my energy from people. Like I really like am very reactive emotionally, but I actually met Mace Archer with a group of like theater students in a bar, and I didn't realize he was a professor for like half an hour, and I was like 7 shots deep and like 2 blue moons deep, and I was just like talking to him about like the like statistical improbability of like the specific sperm of my father meeting the specific egg of my mother, and how like I felt like a stranger in a strange land. And he was like, there's this thing called no shame, and I think it'd be great for it. And I was like, what does that mean? What does that mean? So I've been thinking all night about what having no shame means. And I guess now I understand it's sort of an artistic venue. I've always been drawn to hanging out with people who play music. Obviously, my best friend Olivia thinks a lot about retinas, and Nick has a lot to say about stuff with music. And I've always been drawn to people like that. But the way that I sort of express myself or my like artistic impulses is sort of, it's always strange. And I was thinking about what I could share with you guys tonight, just as I was sitting there. Really, I'm sort of an impromptu type of person. That's the way I like to keep it. I was thinking about the main artistic sort of thing I have. I'm not going to strip, I promise. I promise. But I guess with tattoos. And so I guess I wanted to explain them to you, because I haven't really connected with their stories in a while. And I love stories. I love the idea that all of us hold stories in our flesh, whether or not we have tattoos that speak to them or symbolize them. And usually when people ask me about my tattoos, I'm sort of like, my friend Olivia was telling me this, she was like, you sort of start like speaking really quickly, and you're like, oh, I'm like kind of burdened by the fact that you asked me about this, but also I'm like, I realize this is an opportunity to communicate about myself. So I'm going to try to slow it down, hopefully not beyond 5 or 4 minutes probably at this point. And just like really appreciate the stories that I have committed to having like really injected in my skin with ink. So I guess maybe this is sort of a validation on my part. But I'm going to do it, and you're going to be here. So I have a couple of tattoos, and I only have tattoos on my forearms. These are the only tattoos on my body, and that decision stems from the fact that, as I said, I went to a Christian school, and the headmistress, I went there K through 12, after chapel each week, she would stand at the door to the auditorium, and as we went out, we would shake her hand, and we would say, "Good morning, Mrs. Holden. My name is whatever," and my name is Elizabeth Zell, by the way. And so I would say that, she'd say, "Good morning, Elizabeth Zell." And so the idea of the handshake is really integral to me, and when I meet people, I tend to like shake their hand, even though I immediately want to hug them, because my body tends to want to embrace people. But I shake their hand first, and when I do that, I expose my forearms, and that's a really vulnerable thing, and that's actually like, I guess the handshake originated, I think, from this what you do before a duel to show that you're not hiding anything, you've got no tricks up your sleeve. And I think that's important in the modern world, even without weapons or anything, but to show that like you've got no tricks, this is who you are, you're performing your authentic text right there. But anyway, so that's why they're on my forearms. You guys can tell these are long stories. I think way too much, really. I'm a little bit anxious, like in general. But my first tattoo is this little guy. It's a rectangle with a line through it right in the middle, and it's the mathematical symbol for quadrangle, which is the word that I lost my 5th grade spelling bee to. And I added an extra E after the quad and before the wrangle, so it was actually like quadrangle is how I spelled it. And the moment I had this distinct experience, and I had made it, I won the class spelling bee and moved on to the grade spelling bee, and I was up against James Kennedy. It was down to the 2 of us, and he was like the red-headed genius, and I was just like, I was like sort of like the chubby, like quiet girl that like read a lot of books. And so like people were kind of rooting for him, and it was we're a lookish society. And it was the first moment in my life that I understood that people looked at me with a set of expectations about who I was and how I was going to perform in any given way. And that moment, I feel like part of me has never left that moment, that awareness that we all look at one another with expectations that we don't even fully know why or how we formed. And so that's part of why I got that there. It's also the Chinese character for middle, the first syllable of China, or first character of China, which means the middle kingdom. I like that idea of looking at your life from sort of the perspective in the middle, like 360 view, only being biased in the point that you're standing on. I should speed this up. Gosh, I'm worried about this 5 minutes thing. Time makes me anxious. But and then my second tattoo is this heart, and actually I have 2 tattoos for the 2 people I've been in love with, which is people, like, I guess I worry that it's lame or something, but whatever, you know, life is short. You fall in love, it happens, you get hurt, whatever. But this is for the first person that I dated who went to college a year before me, and he had a really difficult time with it. And the summer after he came home from college, we put everything sort of on the table, and I was like, you know, you were depressed and treated me like crap, and he was like, well, like, I think you're gay, and I was like, I am. And what do you do with that? You know, like, what do you do with that? And so he, oh shit.